Hey, Frank, we're all here now.
Except Frank wasn't here now. Hello and welcome back to Video Games. Tim Rogers here with Insert Credit episode number 284. Faithful listeners might right now want to say to me, "You don't usually introduce episodes." I salute your attention to detail, my friend. It is with deep condolence I confess that you listen to no usual episode, for at some point during the recording of Insert Credit number 284, we lost Frank Cifaldi's audio. Through some conspiracy of twin accidents, neither Frank Cifaldi's local recording nor the cloud backup recording by a Discord bot conspicuously named Craig succeeded in saving itself. When these revelations landed upon the panelists like two lightning bolts coming from opposite directions, host Alex Jaffe gripped his skull and exclaimed that we can't run this episode. Moments later, Alex Jaffe said, in a calmer tone, episode 284 is gonna have to be our lost episode. In the silence between these lines, I, Tim Rogers, could hear exhalations of utter regret that such a mishap should occur in the presence of a guest he had already bumped too numerous times. In the midst of the chaos, I bristled in anticipation that both my fellow panelists, our host Alex Jaffe, and our guest would at once remember the rural and urban legends, and at once implore me to employ my 99% conversational recall to reconstruct a simulation of Frank Cifaldi's every word. Moments later, as everyone gathered continued to throw up their hands and shout, I recalled that no one else present possessed my 99% conversational recall, so they probably did not recall my 99% conversational recall. So I offered the factoid as a charity, and direly accepted the eager request to save the episode. Interspersed throughout the ensuing presentation, you, the listener, can expect to hear my factual recollections of Frank Cifaldi's contributions to the various discussions. I have condensed many of these recollections for clarity and punched up most of Frank Cifaldi's words so they better entertain me personally as a narrator. Furthermore, in conversations where Frank Cifaldi affected any kind of rapid-fire rapport with one panelist or another, I've digested the words of all involved into a singly listenable, descriptive narrative. Additionally, pursuant to the Easter eggly interests of the more devout among the longer-time listeners, I have seen fit to falsify some of Frank's responses, either in part or totality. If you who hear this have toes, I pray you keep on them. Hopefully, few or none among the listenership find this experiment ruinously unpleasant. With equal hope, we beg that none of you ask us ever to do this again, because this is not something I personally want to ever do again. And now, a testimonial from Frank himself.
I'm Frank Cifaldi, and all of this happened exactly as I remember it.
Thank you, Frank. With that, let's begin the episode.
Charlotte!
Jonathan!
Charlotte!
Jonathan!
Charlotte!
Jonathan!
This is episode 284 of Insert Credit, a digital sort of video game zine distributed as a podcast with a horrible buzzer. I'm Alex Jaffe, and if I were killed in an RPG, I would probably drop a birthday cake-flavored Kit Kat bar and a pair of wired earbuds with one working ear.
As custom dictates, Frank Cifaldi introduced himself first. As custom always insinuates, Frank Cifaldi's on-the-spot execution on Alex Jaffe's unrehearsable question prompt resulted in a too-complex discussion of the exact rules and implied world-building of the question. This discussion lasted 1 minute 36.49 seconds. To explain Frank Cifaldi's from-the-hip fired-off response in grave detail, Frank Cifaldi said that he had eaten a lot of pickles lately, so if he were an enemy in a role-playing video game, he would probably drop pickles. The panel discussed dill and tarragon and garlic and turmeric and several other spices. The phrase stinking of brine occurred exactly once. The panel asked, what happens if the player eats the pickles dropped by RPG enemy Frank Cifaldi? Frank Cifaldi then suggested that perhaps pickles restore health, at the cost of imbuing the player with a pickle stench status effect, which attracts enemies possessing a positive pickle affinity multiplier, i.e., other Franks. This conversation happening at the exact beginning of the podcast meant that some panelists, most of whose names begin with B, were not exactly paying attention yet, and thus they asked why enemies would attract other enemies. This resulted in the necessity of Frank to explain that if he were an enemy in a role-playing video game, the enemy would be called a Frank, and the player would be whomever they happened to be, and the items would be pickles, and the player character would eat the pickles, which would result in the status that attracted other Franks toward the player character's location. As often happens, the overlength of this kick-off-ish discussion of course provided Tim Rogers ample time to deeply consider and prescribe his response, which he planned, of course, to begin with an extended histrionic hesitation noise, so as to deflect any listeners inclined to believe he'd written any of this ahead of time.
I'm Tim Rogers, and if I were a monster in a role-playing game, I wear the same thing every time I go outside. A green with orange lining, Buzz Rickson's L2B H-type. I wear a white Whitesville loop-wheeled t-shirt. I wear a pair of blue Sugarcane 1947 the straight leg denim jeans. I wear original brown calfskin Alden 405 boots. I wear a pair of Randolph Aviator sunglasses, gold, 23 karat gold. I'm thinking in terms of Elden Ring monster, like an Elden Ring soldier who is visibly wearing a full set of armor, and you have the tiniest chance of getting like one of those every time you kill them.
Good.
People would be killing me repeatedly to try to get one of those things, and it would take a very long time.
A very low drop rate, ensuring you have to be killed many times.
I mean, it'd be like 1 in 256. But I'm 1 in 256 for the jacket, 1 in 64 for the shoes. And that's with replacement. Yeah. Okay, there you go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm Brandon Sheffield, and being honest with ourselves, I'd probably drop a PC Engine game if I were killed in real life. You know, it's got a lot of those just loose jangling around.
But it would never be a good one. It would just never be one of the ones that anybody wants. Is that true?
That's right. It would be a loose Japan only like derby game or something.
Yeah.
But then if I were a monster in a PC Engine game, I would probably drop an onigiri because that's what a lot of them drop.
Yeah.
So
you mean a hamburger?
Yeah, it would be a little rice triangle with a little black piece of seaweed on it called hamburger.
I love it.
I want to kill you so badly.
Thanks.
Joining us this week is Polygon video editor and Wine Mama video games, Simone de Rochefort.
Oh my god, so true. Hi, I'm Simone de Rochefort, and if you killed me in a video game, I think I would drop copies of The Sun Also Rises and photographs of Charles Leclerc.
Oh, Charles Leclerc.
What's the utility of those in the game?
I like that guy.
The utility of those, they're actually collectibles. So they're different grades. You've got your like uncommon, you've got your rare, you've got your epic, which are the ice bath photos.
Oh, sure.
And so my sort of creature, we carry around those, and you have a small chance of getting a rare drop, an epic drop of the OnlyFans photos of Charles Leclerc that Ferrari likes to post.
The Monegasque himself, I believe, as he's often called by the announcers. So.
Sorry, I heard demonic ass, and I was like, where's this going to go? Yes, the Monegasque.
The Monegasque in second. Always
it's
something
so
like that.
It's so mortifying to have become a Formula One fan, because you do have to learn the word Monegasque, and then when somebody says, oh, Charles Leclerc, the French driver, you have to be like, no, he's Monegasque, and then you sound just like you know too much about Europe.
Or you would say he's from Monaco, and then the person would go, well, isn't that in France? And you'd be like, no, it is kind of, but not really.
of France. It's about France.
Of
It's
French extraction.
A place of France. But you are wearing a Mercedes-Benz cap, so that's good.
I am, because I support Mercedes.
Yeah.
Weird.
I like those guys. I will admit that I drink Red Bull, sugar-free Red Bull, and I do not support that drink.
Okay. Oh,
I have to mention on my stream every week, we support the drink, not the racing team.
Does Honda still have an engine?
yeah, Red Bull is still using Honda until next year or the year after, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
So I guess that means I support Red Bull still.
No, you don't. You don't support Red Bull. You
It's-
can't support Red Bull. They're not.
Thank you.
If you support Red Bull, you are supporting. You're supporting Ginger Spice. You are supporting Max Verstappen, who is not even human.
Yeah.
He's basically you're basically supporting crypto at that point because he is an NFT of a person.
But I like Honda.
Which is Sporty Spice's team,
Probably Mercedes, because she's got taste, right?
I guess.
Yeah, probably.
So it's been a while since we've all been recording together. So
That's true.
Oh, is it?
I'm just saying it's nice to have the old gang together.
This ain't no gang.
I am suggesting that it's time to get back to something you, Frank, suggested yourself we do next time this happened, because you won. What I failed to mention to Simone is that every episode of this has a winner, and what you get for winning is that you get to decide the first topic of the next episode.
What happens if I win?
Then I'm going to ask you for homework off mic.
Shoot. Okay, go on.
It's like a ruse to get the people who are on the show to listen to the next episode to hear the answer to their question. And that's how we build our listenership, one person at a time.
Nice.
It also reduces the work I have to do by 1/10.
That's not bad.
No.
No.
I can tell you something. 10% is genuinely huge.
Yeah.
It's a significant percent.
It's literally decimating my work.
Yeah, it's like an exact, yeah.
It's question time, baby.
Frank Cifaldi's question of the week.
With maximal irony, Frank begins episode number 284 of Insert Credit with a question of his own. Frank had, in a previous episode, floated this question, and now this time he presents it in its formal fullness. Frank's proposed topic concerns what is the Criterion Channel of video games, not the Criterion Collection of video games, which the panel had discussed in deep detail in episode 247. In his topic introduction, Frank draws specific dividing lines between the mission statement of a Criterion Collection and the user experience of a Criterion Channel, which presents aspiring cinephiles handfuls of handy playlists per month, offering quick shortcuts to vertical knowledge in a variety of film genres or granularities. For example, Pre-Code Noir, black and white films about vampires, a selection of works starring Jane Fonda. The Criterion Channel's monthly flavorful playlist presenting user experience, Frank Cifaldi explains, inspires its various viewers so effectively as to land films from said playlists always firmly into occupancy at the top 10 slots in the suggested or trending categories on the front page. This user experiential effectiveness so enthralls Frank Cifaldi, producer of the Mega Man Legacy Collection, mind you, that he finds himself often deep in wonder about what needs to happen in the world and business of video games for such a perfect, tasteful presentation method to make sense for video games. He asks the panel to share in this wonder of his.
This is not the place for me to complain about the Criterion Channel, probably.
What's your complaint, though?
It's the wrong type of pretentious for
Brandon,
me.
how dare you go off Frank's topic? He gets this so little.
Wait, what don't you like about the Criterion Channel? That it owns too much?
No.
That it's making schlubs out there more interesting, and you don't like that? Is that it?
I don't like that it's making schlubs out there think that they're more interesting because they think that they have seen the gamut
What's the
of
difference,
cinema,
really?
but they
I mean,
haven't seen the bad ones and they haven't seen the weird ones because neither of those are on the Criterion
Are they
Channel.
not?
And
well, I mean, they.
no,
I
they
don't.
are
I don't
not.
know if they have to be on the Criterion Channel. I think there should be.
They don't have to, but
There should be an anti-Criterion Channel streaming service that's just weird
I mean,
stuff.
Yeah, that's Tubi.
Hey.
We all have to have, take some personal responsibility. If you have some schlubs in your life that are not watching enough garbage, show them some garbage.
That's what my recommendations on the show are all about. But
I stand by my Netflix's whole gourmet cheeseburgers mission statement is just they're just the direct to video of the modern era for all that entails.
I am so psyched with the whole Max situation. Very stupid. However, bringing together my 90 Day Fiance trash with my HBO quality television in one place, that's a balanced diet is what that is.
Throwing it all together. Yeah.
See, I have an unfortunate feeling that, I've been trying to rid myself of this sort of thing for my entire life, but I do have this deep-seated feeling that if you haven't sifted through the garbage, you don't truly know what you're looking at.
Oh, certainly.
To get to the gems.
In previous episodes, Frank Cifaldi and Tim Rogers had off-the-cuffedly joined in appreciation of the Criterion Channel. Both had said, without a hint of poserishness, if the cops, for example, demanded they cancel all streaming services except one, both Frank Cifaldi and Tim Rogers would both choose the Criterion Channel in a heartbeat. Existence in such close proximity to a two-thirds majority, of course, had initiated Brandon Sheffield's instinct to act the friend of Satan, and so on the occasion of Frank's formal presentation of a discussion topic dedicatedly concerning the Criterion Channel of video games, Brandon Sheffield saw fit to immediately blow the train off its rails, kicking off a conversation during which Tim Rogers would try to ask Brandon Sheffield what he'd call a streaming service that featured Brandon's beloved trash movies. Tim Rogers would, of course, hope for a pause, during which he could say, how about the Contrarion collection, making sure to accentuatedly pronounce the O in Contrarion. Though shockingly, Brandon Sheffield volunteered the immediate answer of Tubi. Later in the question, Frank would agree with Tim that the Criterion Channel does suffice as an educational tool for young, aspiring filmmakers, though Brandon would have none of it. Let's listen, then.
Oh, I don't think it does. I don't think it makes them more interesting.
I mean, I don't know. I
think it feeds people an opinion.
Frank Cifaldi here makes mention of the Criterion Channel's pre-code noir movies playlist.
Pre-code movies are good. I've watched, I think, that whole playlist now.
Frank Cifaldi here asserts that, for example, watching a whole bunch of pre-code noir movies would at the very least not make a person less interesting.
Well, that's their fault.
Yeah.
All right, let's settle this. Let's rank everyone here from least to most interesting.
Ooh.
If I were going to flip a coin, well, it's me, number one, I'm sorry, because my life is a disaster, and I've publicly documented most of it, and I'm 44 years old, so I win. I'm sorry. What was I saying? If you want to flip a coin, Brandon, and there's a 16-year-old youngster, there's a youngster who looks at TikTok, and this youngster comes to you, and they say, I want to learn some stuff. Should I subscribe to Criterion Channel or Tubi? What would you say?
Yeah. No, you're right. It's true. I would.
Right? Right.
It's true.
It's not even a coin flip for me.
No, but
I mean,
it depends on what they want to learn, though.
If they were like Netflix versus HBO Max, or Max, can't even call it HBO Max anymore.
In this day and age.
If they want to learn how to make something for nothing, I would maybe say recommend Tubi. If they want to learn how about process, then I would say Criterion. But I would also probably say take some actual classes.
What if they want to learn about the world?
Getting to what this service
is Tubi going to help them learn about the world?
Frank Cifaldi here tries, and valiantly, to steer the discussion back onto the topic. He alludes to the fragmentary nature of current historical video game re-releases, the various bare-bones repackagings of creaky old arcade games, $10 or so price tags hanging on digital downloadable products of minimal presentation. Frank Cifaldi wants bonus features, creator interviews, concept art galleries, custom-tailored podcast episodes concerning specific mechanics philosophically waxed upon by creators of similar games, not just Nintendo charging customers $5 for Super Mario Bros. Again every time they release a new console.
In the video game version of the Criterion Channel, I would like it to have like a letterboxed aspect where I could like subscribe to somebody's playlists or tracks
Oh,
or something,
yes.
or like get
Oh,
their
yeah.
like if somebody could push their recommendations to me, because I am currently the victim of a bullying campaign by listeners of my other podcast, Rocket, because I haven't played A Link to the Past, which I know that I should, and everyone is telling me so on social media.
It's pretty good.
Mm.
It's pretty good. Have you played Link's Awakening, though?
Yes, great stuff.
Oh, see, I mean, whatever. Have you played Link Between Worlds?
No, I'm not 44. You see.
Well, Link Between Worlds is the newer one.
Blasted.
That's from 2013.
Oh, shit.
So that's that's from
Well,
2013.
I wasn't born yet either. I wasn't born in 2013. Don't worry about it.
You're 9 years old.
Yeah.
So as a 44-year-old, I would say if you played Link's Awakening, you don't need to play Link to the Past. You don't really need to.
Like the thing you're talking about, I feel like Steam that's what they wanted their curator system to be for like about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But
Until they
gonna say-
realized that it was actually just nothing.
every time I open Steam on desktop, I feel a deep sense of despair and anger.
Maybe that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
Yeah, Simone was the only one to address it, so she gets the point.
Frank Cifaldi here makes a last desperate effort to address the actual topic in a meaningful fashion. He implores listeners to not immediately reply that whatever Microsoft's thing is called
Game Pass. It's called Game Pass.
is the Criterion Channel of games. According to Frank Cifaldi, Xbox Game Pass has no presentation. Game Pass just shows the players big giant dumpster lumps of games, all thrown together in a big nasty salad soup. According to Frank Cifaldi, Game Pass offers zero celebration, zero instruction. Frank Cifaldi goes on. He says that the Criterion Channel of video games requires a community experience, like what he wanted the Playdate to provide. However, his Playdate experience, as previously explored on earlier episodes of Insert Credit, did not match up with this goal he had in mind. He thought he'd joined a community of game players all receiving games at the same time. However, reality turned out different. He and his friends all received games on different schedules, fracturing any possible aspect of community.
I think the only realistic implementation of this is, at this point, a YouTube channel and a ROM set where like someone is
And a dream.
like DF Retro gives you the ROMs also to what they're talking about, because I don't think the reality is possible, because I don't think that, for example, Microsoft or Sony could do a curator system that wouldn't be like influenced by money and influenced by the things that they have. And, like none of these platforms are purely a subscription service that is divorced from the content that is presented, which is why, like, if Criterion funded movies, the whole thing wouldn't work. It has to be like a third exterior party, and I don't.
Yeah.
So that's why I said I think it would have to be like a YouTube channel, because
But this is a fantasy world in which this Criterion
It's a
Channel
fantasy
games
world.
exists.
Yeah, play with us in the space, Brandon.
okay,
Don't try to monetize this.
Yeah.
I was just trying to make it real.
In real life, I say that we don't even have the first stage
Yeah.
of the Criterion Channel of video games implemented yet. We don't even have that yet.
Which is the good video games, you mean?
Like, yeah, that's the joke, yeah. But then there's what we were talking. Remember when we did our very long Criterion collection of games, where it's like there would just be Shadow of the Colossus basically, and that's it, right? Like that's there you go. That's the canonical summary. Don't go back and listen to the episode. We spent an hour, and all we said was Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh,
That's
God.
it. That's the whole thing. They're just accept that as the that's how I'm feeling right now. We don't have the first stage of it implemented yet, and we also don't have the first stage in streaming service history implemented yet. And Criterion Channel is just a very wonderfully packaged product, and I don't see that coming in video games for another 20 years or so.
Frank Cifaldi here fondly remembers his time working at the now defunct video game service GameTap, which he claims had some of the right ideas way back before anyone had any idea what even one of the right ideas would have been. Frank Cifaldi sighs wistfully, and even in a manner a playwright might in stage directions describe as lugubrious, defeatedly. That to finish GameTap's ancient mission requires a perfect, harmonious confluence of too many factors, legal and industrial, to ever crystallize in our hopeless modern hexscape. Here the panel all unanimously and briefly acknowledged the presence of a David Lynch playlist on the Criterion Channel.
It would need to be third party like that, though. It'd have to be something like a Game Tap or a what's that one that you can buy games from still?
Gamefly?
Gamefly. That's the one.
Gamefly. Gamefly is basically the original Netflix of video games, the like pre-streaming Netflix.
Which they're discontinuing now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No more DVDs in a paper sleeve. So it's like, what would be a playlist? Like History of the Metroidvania. You've got like an interview with Yoshio Sakamoto, and then you've got like Esper Bokentai for the NES, and then you've got Super Metroid, and you've got an interview with a Hollow Knight person, and then a couple little like 3-minute nicely edited videos of Koji Igarashi playing Hollow Knight or whatever, and him like being like, "Oh, this is pretty good.
Let's start a business."
That would be cool. That would
Simone,
be cool."
I just
Hey,
told
guys.
Brandon not to monetize this.
No, I think it'll scale.
You're living in a dream world, de Rochefort.
Let me get some angel investors on the phone. Go on.
I think it's time to move on to our next topic. I know we talk about acquisitions on this show a little too much, but Sega just bought Rovio, creators of Angry
very
Birds
good,
and
yeah.
more or less nothing else, for $775 million.
A lot of millions, yeah.
Why did they do that?
They could have made 100 new Yakuza games. I was telling Mimsy about this, and I was just rattling off how many ridiculous numbers of dozens of their franchise games they could have made. They could have made 28 new Persona games.
But now they can make more Angry Birds movies.
I think that's what it is. It's
They can
got to
make,
be.
well, no, yeah, they're gonna put that red Angry Bird is gonna appear in the credits of Sonic the Hedgehog the movie 3.
Oh!
It's got to be the franchising.
Red Angry Bird is gonna, oh man, I'm gonna die.
You see, that doesn't make sense to me because the Angry Birds, they're Illumination,
Already
right?
have a movie. Yeah.
And Illumination is already aligned with Mario.
It's all connected.
Frank Cifaldi here expresses the controversial belief that Angry Birds is a better game than Sonic the Hedgehog has ever been. He says the characters look better, the level design is better, the game design is better. He insists that he's going to get a lot of hate online for saying this, though he doesn't care. He believes Sega is going to completely replace Sonic the Hedgehog with the red Angry Bird. He refuses to believe otherwise. He has also heard a dark rumor that Sega is considering selling off all the rights to Sonic the Hedgehog to Nintendo, of all people, for quote-unquote pennies on the dollar. Frank Cifaldi then implores listeners to mark his words. And then before he can speak the words he wishes listeners to mark, Brandon Sheffield expresses a wish that they'd make a Bonk movie, which would totally make more money than the Mario movie. Also, Brandon Sheffield says, if you really think about it, it'd make sense if they just replaced the red Angry Bird with Bonk. The ensuing 4-minute and 38-second conversation on this subject has been omitted.
Those goddarn Angry Birds. Anyway, what's the question about this?
Why did
they
they
do
Yeah,
this?
why did they do this?
Why did they do it?
I haven't been able to really figure it out.
Because for the same reason that Square Enix threw a bunch of money into NFTs, for the same reason Square Enix sold off or got let Hitman go, and then years later sold Tomb Raider and
That at least makes
like-
a perverse amount of sense because NFTs were popular when they invested in NFTs.
That's true. Yeah,
and
yeah.
Popular with investors, yeah.
Angry Birds was popular in 2009.
They were popular, but they had no future. The NFTs never had a future.
What else is Rovio doing, though? They can't just be doing
Nothing.
They're in Finland.
They're doing nothing.
So,
They tried re-releasing Angry Birds and everyone hated it.
yeah.
They have like 20 games. They have a lot of games.
Wow.
Many of the successful ones.
Y'all, do you know what their latest game release is?
What?
What's that?
What is
Rovio
it?
Classics: Angry Birds.
Yes, that's what I
Nice.
said. They tried
It's-
re-releasing Angry Birds
I'm
and everyone
sorry.
hated it.
I didn't fully grasp it.
Was it not delisted from the App Store? It was released and then delisted.
And that's the classic.
You had 1 day to buy it. They were like, "We're delisting it tomorrow,"
Oh.
and then
Oh, wow.
is it not
Flappy
something
Bird.
that happened?
I don't know.
No.
It makes sense to buy a successful mobile game business from some perspectives if you want that to be what you do going forward, because it's probably not like Angry Birds comes into Sonic so much as it's Rovio makes the next Sonic mobile games.
Rovio hasn't had a successful game in 10 years, though.
That's not correct.
But they're still a studio that makes games, and they're people who make games.
That
so they
makes
could ostensibly
game
be put to
singular.
game.
No,
Hey,
okay,
okay.
Jeffy,
Well,
this
what
is just not
sorry?
correct.
What is Small Town Murders that they released in 2020? What's that? Tell me what that is. Is that an Angry Bird clone? It doesn't have a Wikipedia page, so I can't
You
find out.
have me there. Of course, the super popular Small Town Murders game. they
Sugar
made. Yeah.
Blast.
I think it's a hidden object game. They make hidden object games, and they make
They got puzzle games.
Angry Birds is just pachinko for gamers. Sega is also together with Sammy, who makes pachinko for pachinko players.
Yeah.
They're gonna basically make an Angry Birds pachinko machine, which makes sense. Period. And they're gonna make an Angry Sonic game where you fling Sonic around,
Yes.
and people will say it's like Sonic Spinball, and then a bunch of people who pretend that they like Sonic Spinball will appear,
Oh,
and those people are wrong because that game's not good.
I literally just figured it out this second. Sega bought
is it?
Rovio because Microsoft bought King. They're like, oh, we need one of those.
Oh, okay.
And this was the one that was left.
I don't think Sega sees themselves in competition with Microsoft.
A lot of people could compete with Microsoft. I
No,
think.
but like if you're growing, if you want, the idea is like if you want to grow your company, you well, I guess we have to acquire a mobile publisher who's not acquired.
We got to get one of
I
those.
don't think that's
We
it.
got to get one of those. Yeah, that's,
I think, and like, it's silly for us, but I'm sure somewhere in the world of corporate where people know money, they're like, oh, that's a studio that has produced a very successful game that everyone knows the name of. It has a movie
Everybody
made about
knows
it.
Angry
It's a
Birds.
good one.
Those movies were popular. It's really popular in China still.
yeah.
Oh, it
makes
might be a
sense.
China thing. Yeah.
There's arcade games. Rovio has been incredibly successful at franchising its most popular thing. And most of the companies that you look at that had one popular thing are gone
That's true.
or diminished. And Rovio
Yeah.
is not. Like, if you look at Gung Ho with Puzzle and Dragons, like, how well are they doing today? Not
They're a husk.
Sega could have bought them, but they didn't. They bought Rovio because Rovio is still successful, still making new games, despite what Jaffe thinks. And it makes sense. I just don't like it.
Yeah, we don't have to like it.
It's stupid.
But it makes sense monetarily.
I mean,
Right.
I was just going to ignore that it makes sense and just continue making fun of them,
Yeah.
Okay.
which is fun.
That would have been the play.
Yeah, that would have been more. But yeah, of course, it makes sense. There's, China. There's a lot we don't know about China.
That's true.
There's a lot that it's hard to know.
A real good sweeping statement that no one could possibly disagree with.
There's a lot we don't know about China.
They literally have a forbidden city. We can't know what goes on in there. It's forbidden.
There's a lot that we don't know about the bottom
Oh, I
of the
did go
sea.
there. I've been there.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot. There's stuff down there.
It didn't seem that forbidden when I was there. I mean, I was just walking around.
I went
Brandon,
there.
don't let them
They
know.
let you in?
I've been there.
There's a subway stop.
It's where they keep their angriest birds.
You just take the train there.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
where they keep the bad piggies.
They got those Angry Birds. They'll do something with them. We all love Angry Birds. Let's face it.
Oh, yeah,
everybody
we
here
all love
loves
Angry
that game.
Birds
Those
here.
games
We're
are
big fans.
fantastic.
Simone, this next question
Not
is
really.
mainly for you.
Frightening.
Could you please convince the panel that board games are good?
Hey, I already know board games are good, man.
Here, Frank Cifaldi chimes in that he, too, knows that board games are good.
This is really frightening because to me this isn't something that anyone would ever ask because it's so obvious. So now I'm very scared. Sometimes you like to sit around a big table with friends and have a few beers and a laugh together and create enmities.
I am unfamiliar with 3 of those words.
Yeah, okay.
But
yeah.
wait, I understand that part.
Yeah.
But the thing that you do is you get all your friends together, and then there's several board game options, and you spend about an hour trying to figure out which one you're going to play, and then someone spends about 2 hours explaining it, and then by the end of that, you go
Okay,
home.
part of that is true.
that right?
You need a friend who's an alpha, who's got a decision that they've made. You're coming over to play this game. And then you say, okay, we're all here,
Yeah.
we're all here. And then you are correct. That person will spend 2 hours reading to you. But having things read to you is better than having to read them yourself.
Once you've had a board game rules read to you once, you get I don't know, you get
You
good
get good at being read
you
to.
get good at having board
Yeah,
games
yeah.
read to you, right?
I will just say that I lived in Oakland, California for 7 years, and I frequently played board games with a group of friends, and we never invited Brandon, despite us all knowing Brandon. Because we just figured he would say no.
That makes sense.
Like, sorry, Brandon.
Sometimes it's nice to be asked.
We figured he would not want to do it. Frank wasn't invited either because Frank was busy.
Too cool.
Here, Frank Cifaldi clarifies that he had been, in fact, always very busy whenever Tim Rogers played board games with Oakland acquaintances. However, he is quick to point out all his fond memories of playing old and usually bad and/or licensed video games every Friday night with Tim Rogers on twitch.tv/actionbutton in The Buddy Dumpster, a now lost series of streams that occurred between 2012 and 2014, before both Frank Cifaldi and Tim Rogers became too busy with career-related events. Tim and Frank share a momentary reflection on how they didn't invite Brandon to be on those streams either.
You can learn new things about your friends, like the ways in which certain friends will always backstab you and you can't trust them.
Right.
No matter what they say, don't believe their lies. I think that's useful information to have going forward because we don't know what will happen in life. And just knowing, for example, who's going to have my back?
Yeah.
Who's going to steal my sheep and my wood?
I also think if you're a board game, if you're a video game designer or video game design minded, playing a whole lot of board games is still a really good idea. I remember it being like a secret in like 2010 in the game designer community. Like, you should check out some board games, man. There's some stuff in there.
Really?
There's some stuff in there. Like the whole concept of hidden information. Like I remember people passing the phrase hidden information around as though it were like, this is going to open your mind, dude. These were like the same people who were going to see Sleep No More and being like, you got to go see Sleep No More.
That's me.
Dude. You got yeah. It was like two groups of people that like slowly became one group of people, the board games and the Sleep No More people. And I think board games are real cool. You know what people keep asking me, Brandon Sheffield?
What's that?
I didn't mean to say that in an angry way. I'll try to say that in a nicer way. Hold on. Do you know what people keep asking me, Brandon Sheffield?
What's that?
They keep asking me why you, me, Frank, and Jaffe don't play Among Us and do that as a podcast. People keep asking.
As a podcast.
So, as a podcast, video, stream, like whatever.
Would that be fun?
They want to see us play Among
Is that
Us.
something people would like?
It seems like something people would like. It's been brought up to me independently by several people, and I just never mentioned it to Brandon because I figured he wouldn't want to.
Well, I don't want to, but I would do it.
We could put it on that Patreon.
Among Us is. Oh, the reason I bring it up is that's basically a board game that is made by a bunch of, or that is made as a video game by a bunch of people who were game designers, video game designers who were like, well, have you seen board games? And it's made kind of like a board game. So many board game experiences are your friend stabbing your back and people betraying people. And
that is basically what we do on this show already.
People also ask if we would be interested in playing Dungeons and Dragons, but
that's a bit more of a time commitment, huh?
That's too much stuff. Among Us seems more easy to do.
Here, Frank Cifaldi jokes about how probably nobody would be interested in listening to some people play Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, it seems like it could take off.
Or Among Us, for that matter.
It seems like it could really be something.
Is Among Us popular?
I just think the problem for me with board games has traditionally been that when I get invited to play board games, it is not only my friends there. It has to be.
Oh yeah, it's a bunch of people you don't know.
It's a bunch of people I don't know and one friend. And
I have an idea for you.
What's that?
You should invite people over to your house to play board games.
But then I gotta really want to.
Is that the only way Brandon can play board games? Is if he invites people over to play a board game, he gets to explain to everyone?
Yeah.
Now Frank Cifaldi divulges a hilarious anecdote about the time he, Brandon, and their respective then-girlfriends sauntered into a board game store in Temescal, Oakland, California, one fine weekend afternoon. Several patrons sat delightedly playing various board games. At a loss for which analog contest to sample, Frank, Brandon, and co. decided to indulge the invitation of a lone, friendly man, who proceeded to immediately and repeatedly defeat them in Ticket to Ride.
That's terrible.
Wow. A Ticket to Ride shark. That's low.
He was waiting all year for that day.
Yeah. That was the best day of his life.
You remember there was another group? There was a group of older women that didn't want us to join their group because they're like, no, we're just doing our own thing here.
Oh.
Yeah. Board game bullies.
Oh, okay.
All right, that's time. Next question. Speaking of popular games online, this might be an out-of-touch thing to ask, but what's the deal with those TikTok videos that have Minecraft or Subway Surfer footage playing at the bottom?
Oh, yeah.
Don't like those, no.
But what are they?
Began as some kind of a joke about how people's attention spans are
Yeah.
at large divided these days. And now it's just, as all TikTok trends and social media involving the younger people, it just became a genuine thing.
Mhm.
Is that it?
Yeah, it just kind of became a meme, and it was like it's something to look at while you hear some
Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was ironic or not.
red.
It's a meme, and then it became a thing.
Yeah,
right.
It's not ironic anymore.
Right. As memes either become a thing or they
Yeah.
die. Right.
Jokes that you make online become truths in real life.
Yeah, that's how a president got elected.
True.
That's how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Et cetera, right? It's just a lot of stuff kind of like people just like squinching their hands into goos and foams and
All I get are videos of baby animals. I'm on baby elephant algorithm right now, which is really good.
baby elephant.
Yeah, and they don't need anything else to distract me from those.
You get that lady that makes little pea shooting weapons out of reeds and stuff.
What?
Yeah, she's pretty cool. There's another lady that cleans tombstones off.
Oh, I think I saw her scraping some lichen off a tombstone. Oh,
Yeah.
that was
Yes.
good. Mm.
That's right.
That was beautiful to see.
Anyone else get those videos that show how the panelists on this show die? That's all I get on my feed.
Oh, interesting. Wait,
Oh,
how do I
dang.
die?
BB gun, actually.
Really? From the lady who's making the reed weapons?
No, you get hit with the actual gun, not the
Oh.
bullets.
Wow.
Yeah, falls
Oh,
from a
wow.
shelf.
That's kind of embarrassing.
Oh, no.
Yeah, sorry about
I
that.
was gonna say BB guns weigh like 5 pounds,
Yeah,
if
I
that.
shouldn't have been walking under that shelf.
yeah, it hits her fontanelle.
Which I still have because I'm only 3 years old.
Exactly. It all works. The lore works.
No.
Born in 2013. I mean,
Yeah, well, I can't do math. Look.
Do you ever kind of wish you did still have a fontanelle?
All the
I would
time.
definitely touch it. Yeah,
Yeah.
my
Yeah,
fingers would be
because you
all
could
up
just
in
be like
there.
sinking your finger in there.
Yeah.
And you would also have you could get like a red tattoo on it so that it looks like a Contra boss weak
I'd be on
spot.
Fontanelle talk nonstop, touching
That's
my
why my
fontanelle.
persona is a kappa.
Only Fontanelles!
only fontanelles. oh
If you
God.
spilled a saucer, if you spilled yeah.
Okay.
Oh my
I'm
God.
calm now.
I don't know.
You could get like a Kevlar, fontanelle, stitched in wearable.
Oh, wow. We'd have a whole new fashion industry of little hats.
Yeah.
Little Pope hats.
Yeah.
Now this is monetizable. Forget the Criterion stuff.
Embroidery. We need to take up
Yeah.
embroidering little hats.
The more eagle-eared among our listeners perhaps noticed that Frank Cifaldi did not interject a single quip into the discussion of this particular question. Either he considered the topic too idiotic to deserve his comment, or he, too busy with quote-unquote life stuff to know what a TikTok trend even is, had to Google the videos under consideration, at which point, just like that, the machine got him, and he stared, transfixed at some inane thing or another, for the duration of the conversation.
I think we've answered that, which means it's time to go on to everybody's favorite segment. This is the Improv Zone. Congratulations. We've arrived at a segment where you all have to do improv.
Great.
Yes, Frank. In this segment, you are an experienced pawn shop owner and a sort of hub for the video game multiverse. Simone, Tim, and Brandon are all game characters of their choice, trying to haggle with you over something they want to sell.
Our choice.
Yes. Here we go.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Oh, that's it?
Yes, that's all you get. 4 minutes on the clock.
The exact instant Alex Jaffe said all the panelists aside from Frank were to play the roles of game characters of their choice, Tim Rogers chose to play the role of Gordon Freeman, the famously silent protagonist of the Half-Life series. What an auspicious joke to make on such an occasion as a podcast episode wherein Frank Cifaldi would become the silent protagonist of Insert Credit. To reconstruct Frank Cifaldi's performance as a pawn shop keeper serving a curious clientele of video game characters given flesh would subvert the very soul of improvisation in an unholy manner. Therefore, we present this segment with Frank Cifaldi's voice muted.
It's probably a lot better this way anyway.
Nope. Nope, you can't. We're beyond help because we got no prompt.
Hang on, I have to Google some video games really quick.
Yeah, I don't know.
You guys ever heard of these?
I'm a silent protatonist from a Dragon
we
Quest
should all just
game
be silent
for this one. That's me. I'm Gordon Freeman from
Gordon Freeman, yes.
Oh, God.
well, yeah, I mean he's also a silent
I'm
protagonist.
Mr. Shining Force.
Maybe I'll be Link and I'll like that. How's that? Is that the only? That's the only thing he can say,
I have
right?
a princess for sale. She refuses to excuse me.
Oh man, when are they gonna bring that Link back?
Okay, how about this? It's like a Master Sword. It's called a Mr. Sword, but it's just
Ooh, nice.
it's just as good. It's worth a lot of money. Dang it. Well, how many rupees is that? Do you have any pots back there that I can smash first to while you don't notice?
Am I trying to sell something or am I trying to buy something?
You're selling.
You're trying to sell something.
Oh, okay.
That's what made this
Okay.
harder. But I've already done my part, so
That would
goodbye.
be easy. There's so many there's a lot of video game items
Hey,
out there.
it's me, Mario, as voiced by Chris Pratt,
Hey.
Mario from Brooklyn. I got a tool set here. This is exactly what he sounds like. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie.
Here we
Listen,
come.
I'm trying to raise some money to buy a birthday present for my brother Luigi. And I've got some tools I'd like to sell. Do you take wrenches? Listen, these came straight from the Mushroom Kingdom. Anything could have happened in those pipes.
Yeah.
You don't want to make a political statement by supporting the mushroom people? That'd be great, thanks. No, go ahead, make the call.
Boop, 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 boop. Hey, other side of the Redbird Pawn Shop. This is another castle. How can I help you?
How do you know it's blood? Have you even tasted
Oh,
it?
yum, yum. We love that. Send him over. There's high demand. I'll buy that at a high price.
Hello, I'm the king from Battle Chess, and I hear that this
Very
is
good.
the place that I can sell 16 of my minions.
Oh.
You buy pawns, right?
Oh,
Hey!
fuck you.
Hey, okay, that's the end of my
That's
joke.
an excellent joke to end on. Congratulations, Brandon. We'll be right back after a quick break.
I think you actually would only have eight minions.
This message is endorsed by the Insert Credit podcast and not the individual panelists. This is the Insert Credit Quick Break. I'm Alex Jaffe, and this week's episode of Insert Credit is sponsored by Mid-Autumn, a new story-rich roguelike that combines Hades-style dungeon crawling with the soulful atmosphere of games like Butterfly Soup and A Space for the Unbound. You like hidden magical worlds? You might want to check out what's bubbling just underneath the cozy town of Nambo Key. As Nambo Key's newest spirit guardian, you'll absorb the lunar powers of your enemies to reflect right back at them, unraveling new secrets each time you return to the spirit world. This hard Schumann music you're listening to right now, I got that from the Mid-Autumn devs just to put in this ad. Mid-Autumn is releasing into early access on May 9th, just 2 weeks from now, on Steam and itch.io. But if you can't wait until then, you can download a free demo of Mid-Autumn's first biome on May 4th. Show up to support a game by these developers who were the first to ever say, hey, you know who would really like this game? The Insert Credit Dirtbags. Let's all be tastemakers. That's mid like middle and autumn like the season. Mid-Autumn. If you'd like to advertise on a future episode of Insert Credit, we're ready to shock and disgust you on our behalf over the affordability of our pricing and the reasonability of our terms. Our operators are standing by at the email address show@insertcredit.com. I'm our operator.
Kill me, bro.
Welcome back to Insert Credit. It's time for us to
Thanks.
go to the dirt bag. This is the point in every episode where we go to one of our listeners who had the common decency, for God's sake, to throw us a few dollars at patreon.com/insertcredit, where you could get access to the forum that lets you submit questions, monthly bonus episodes, and our regular episodes ad-free. This week's question comes from Zara, who asks, in Laguna de Gondola, a location in Dragon Quest XI, I noticed the unmistakable call of the cookie frog mixed diegetically into the background. This ripped my brain out of the game completely, because the cookie frog is native to the Caribbean island of Puerto Rico, and the landscape of Laguna de Gondola is clearly Mediterranean.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever recognized the deeply personal sound from your real life inside a video game?
Frank Cifaldi, perhaps fittingly for an episode in which his recording registered only silence, sat eerily silent for the duration of the discussion of this topic. Perhaps he waited patiently for the perfect opportunity to make a Sonic the Hedgehog gas station joke so obvious it occurred to multiple panelists at the same time. Or perhaps he, like Tim Rogers, sat workshopping the perfect execution of said Sonic the Hedgehog gas station joke so long that he let someone else make a much worse version of that joke immediately before him. Whatever the case may have been, Frank Cifaldi might have spent the duration of this discussion wondering if Tim Rogers was going to mention the creaky metal jail cell door opening .wav stock sound effect featured multiple times in the classic Daniel Bernhardt film Bloodsport 4, The Dark Kumite, as a deeply personal sound effect from his real life, or what suffices for his real life, a sound effect he nonetheless hears occasionally while playing old PlayStation 1 games made either in the USA or in Europe.
I think you can probably expand this question a little bit to not just be recognized like an element from your real life that's deeply personal that suddenly hits you from a video game. The specific frog is interesting. I wonder if they just got it off a sound pack.
It's a great looking frog, I gotta say.
You get a lot of those generic, like, bird in a jungle sounds.
Yeah, Esper, please
that-
put this frog in the show notes.
That go in any zone. I'm sure this has happened. I see it. It's mostly like visuals. I've talked about how this isn't a video game, but how in the TV show The Bear, it takes place in Chicago, and they wanted to show the Chicago Tribune, so they looked up Tribune, and then they got the Oakland Tribune building and put it into a Chicago montage.
Mm-hmm.
We gave him the old Chicago montage, if you know what I mean.
Speaking of something from my everyday life, something deeply personal that I recognize in a piece of media, the main character in The Bear, Jeremy Allen White, is wearing sugarcane Whitesville loop-wheeled plain white t-shirt. I'd recognize that goddarn t-shirt anywhere. And I don't understand why mine doesn't look like his. That's a joke about his biceps. Why doesn't mine look like that?
It's nothing different about you. It's just Taylor.
It's probably because he has the right to bear arms.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
right.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
There we
Goodbye.
Oh, actually, speaking of that show, I also recognized immediately Diego Garcia's art as being the arcade game that's in that show. Diego Garcia, who made a Casual Birder on the Playdate.
Mm-hmm.
It was unmistakably his art, and then I was like, "Hey, did you do that thing?" And he's like, "Yeah."
It's cool.
That game is so weird. That guy from Andor is in that show, though, so that's cool.
This happened recently to me, actually. We were playing Sons of the Forest on a Polygon stream, and it was my first time playing it. They had played it the week before, and then I came in late. And we were looking at the plant life, and I was like, horsetail ferns. Interesting. We got those in Washington State, where I grew up. Big, like, old-growth trees. We got those in Washington State. I don't know if you know this, but I grew up there. And then I gathered salmon berries, and I was like, this is Washington! This is absolutely, if not Washington, the Pacific Northwest. And I think somebody in chat did look it up and confirmed that it was like either inspired by the Vancouver area or maybe the devs are in the Vancouver area. So it was legitimately the Pacific Northwest, but I knew that intrinsically because of the flora, because I spent my childhood in the woods. I was the son of the forest.
Oh, that makes sense. I have a sort of inverse one of those where when I was working on our game, Oh Dear, and making all these tracks, and the tracks were like really hilly and turny at the same time. And the programmer at the time, he was like, "Why do you keep making these tracks like this. Like, this is not. It's not only not realistic, it just like, it doesn't look good. And I was like, no, it just feels right to me. And then some point I was driving through part of Northern California, further north than where I live. And I was like, oh, this is why I did this, because this is what all these roads, like in Napa and Petaluma, and
you explicitly set your game in Northern California.
These are just roads. Normal roads.
I was just like, this is what roads are. This is just how roads go. When you do turns,
They're just normal roads.
this is what it's like.
We're just innocent roads.
I wish I could think of a sound that similar to what they're talking about. I know I've experienced this. I just can't get it in there. I do strongly dislike when I hear that generic child laughter sound, though. You know what I'm talking about?
Do it for me.
Oh yeah.
I can't do it. It's too bubbly and fast. But
Is it like
it's where it goes ha 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 ha. That kind of.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
I do have a reverse one of these where whenever I'm in a gas station,
Oh, stop it! Don't. I was gonna do this.
Oh, really?
I was gonna say every time I play a Sonic the Hedgehog game and I pick up a ring, I hear this sound that they played at the register at my local gas station when I was 34 years old. Is what I was gonna. That was my joke. I was gonna do it really deadpan.
How could I have possibly known that, Tim?
Man, I was gonna do it so deadpan, and it was even gonna be like it's exactly the same as the sound they played at the register at the gas station in my neighborhood when I was 34 years old. That was gonna be really, really good.
Jaffe did it live, pan.
Do you guys both just want to do it and then we can decide whose is better?
No, it's too late now, mate.
Man.
We can't do it. No, it's too late now. Can't do
One
it.
of us has to go home and change.
It's
Neither of you are winning this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we cancel each other out here. I have another question for you.
oh, this one was so good though. But anyway,
This next question comes by special request from insert credit sometimes correspondent Ash Parrish, who asks, "Who is the American Mario?"
Ooh.
I'm in a Mario, Bubsy.
I mean, isn't Mario American?
Is he?
He's Italian American.
He's Italian American.
Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel is a character who's from Japan, who's a platform mascot.
Oh, yeah.
Who is not made in Japan.
Yeah,
So
that's
is
probably it.
Is that an American game?
Yeah.
Really feels like a Brit game.
Duke Nukem?
It feels British, but I'm 90% it's American. Like,
God, it's
isn't
like the
David
worst.
Siller
That game
involved
is
and stuff, Frank?
So bad. Have you played that game, Brandon? I know you've played
Zero
it.
the Kamikaze Squirrel.
You talk about snuffling around in the trash like a truffle dumpster hog when it comes to media, right?
Tim, do you know how much money that game costs right now, complete on eBay?
$1 billion,
Yeah,
probably, right?
It's like $600, $700.
Some ungodly sum. God, what a horrible video game.
Frank Cifaldi agrees that yes, Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel should not exist. Frank Cifaldi also clarifies that Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel in fact was developed by Iguana Entertainment, headquartered at the time in Austin, Texas. Frank Cifaldi complimented Tim Rogers on his quick response, agreeing that, wow, yes, Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel is a platform mascot of distinctly Japanese nationality invented by American video game developers. Frank Cifaldi said that Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel was, quote, in fact, absolutely 100% the American Mario, unquote. He then spent the remainder of this discussion silently hoping that no one would mention his hated nemesis, Wild Woody. Frank Cifaldi then turned the conversation toward Mario's Italian-American identity.
Yeah, like what's the equivalent of like Japan making an Italian American character, America making a blank character?
Is it Sifu?
Frank Cifaldi makes mention of mascot platformers starring distinctly Australian marsupials as an example of characters with what suffices in the video game industry for cultural identity. Listen closely and you will hear Brandon Sheffield claim that Cow the Kangaroo was developed by Chrome Studios in Australia. He's actually thinking of Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. Cow the Kangaroo was developed by Tate Multimedia in Warsaw, Poland. Tim Rogers knows this and yet does not mention it, for fear of making Brandon sad.
Cow the Kangaroo, but that is isn't that made by Chrome in Australia?
That is made in Australia, yeah.
Yeah, Straya.
He's right to throw that boomerang.
Could it be like the guy from Vanquish, maybe?
No, that's the same thing.
Sam Gideon.
Vanquish is made in Japan.
Yeah, but Vanquish is made in Japan and he's an American, so it's the same as Mario.
Yeah, that's true.
Is it
Yeah.
Ezio Auditore?
Who's that?
That's from Montreal.
Yeah, so it's Canadian. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, Canada is in North America.
Yeah, that is
It is
American.
America. Yeah,
It's true.
Canadians would in fact bristle at us mentioning America and assuming it's the United States
This
of
is
America.
true. This is true.
Frank Cifaldi here asks, which Grand Theft Auto was the first one that was made in New York? Alex Jaffe mishears the question as which Grand Theft Auto was first set in New York. Brandon and Tim comment that Grand Theft Autos have been developed by Rockstar North in Scotland, despite the company maintaining a corporate headquarters and sizable development studio in New York City. The panelists discuss this topic with several maybes and I thinks regarding Grand Theft Auto's Vice City, San Andreas, 4, and 5. We've condensed this conversation for clarity and offer this narration here as a correction of sorts. Tim Rogers then mentions Ray Liotta, who starred as Tommy Vercetti in Grand Theft Auto Vice City, positing implicitly that Tommy Vercetti, an Italian-American man played by an Italian-American actor in a video game developed at least partially in the United States, is definitely an American Mario, if not the American Mario. Just as even this narrator becomes confused as to the exact nature of this question, Frank Cifaldi quickly interjects, "What about Kratos?"
Kratos.
No, Kratos is Greek.
Well, he's Greek,
But
Yeah, well, okay, so he's
and he's made in
he's
America.
made in America though.
So yeah, it could be Kratos.
definitely
Yeah,
could be.
Man, Kratos rules. We've all come around on Kratos, right? Ever since he became a father, we all see,
Redeemed.
so many sides of him,
100%.
right?
I see all his sides. I see all his facets.
No
See the
choice but to
depth.
stay on a legend.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I heard that Princess Diana was reincarnated as Kratos.
Oh,
yeah.
I think
I
this
did
is a
hear that.
callback to something from before the episode.
Absolutely it is.
Yes.
Why were people surprised when Princess Diana died? Her name is literally
Princess
Princess
Di.
Diana. Like, come on, right?
Talk about foreshadowing.
Like, did you think she was gonna live
She's
forever?
not Princess
Oh, man.
Livanna.
Oh my.
Can I make a little tangent about Princess Di?
Yes.
Yeah, go for it, man.
You
Who
can't
cares?
give permission, Simone. You don't
I
live
don't
here.
know.
She can do it. She can do it. I was listening to some music, and a Depeche Mode song came on, and
I just can't get enough.
the beginning of the chorus is Princess Di is wearing a new dress, but all the rest of the lyrics are about like disasters that are going on, and then it says Princess Di is wearing a new dress, and it's like about media coverage basically.
Oh, no.
And so I was listening to this and thinking about how it was actually a commentary. At first I thought it was a commentary on like Princess Di's memory being like dressed up in a weird way for like public spectacle. But then
you remembered people existed
Right.
before Princess Diana died.
I forgot that people existed before she was dead.
Yeah, it would have
That's the
been
thing.
like Kim Kardashian is wearing
Because
a
it
new
was
dress.
contemporary and she was
You
alive.
confused Princess Diana's death for like "Let There Be Light" in the Book of Genesis. So.
It's like basically
Is that it?
I forgot she was ever alive, and that you could make a comment about how the media only cares about her new dress, because you could never say that now because no, she's dead. You can't say that.
Was her funeral open casket? Were the mourners allowed to
I don't
look
think
upon
they do open casket in.
Talking about conspiracies.
in the royals?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that if that would have been an open casket, that would have been pretty gross.
Yeah, I'm an Orthodox the Sun literalist. I believe the world began with Princess Diana's death.
That's
Very
right.
good.
All right, it's time to go on to our final segment. We're doing Violence Island. My favorite part of the show. Every month, we get our listeners in our community at forums.insertcredit.com to ask us who would win in a fight between various personalities of
Yeah.
the video game sphere.
And it's our job to derail every topic and try to make it more interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
We have to apologize for last time because Naked, whatever her name is,
Quiet.
Quiet.
has like all kinds of amazing powers.
No, that's okay.
and,
She won
like,
anyway.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
people were very upset with us not knowing about that.
We will make up for
Gotta
that
redeem
in
ourselves.
the champion round.
I knew about her powers. I was just goddarn bored. you people getting upset. You try being on this goddarn thing. Right? Like, come on.
All right.
You try sitting here and talking about
Our
this.
first match
Come on.
is
Pure podcast content.
Shigeru Miyamoto versus Toad.
Ooh.
Miyamoto's
sick, dude.
How-
Did Miyamoto invent Toad?
He brought him into
But
this
he'll
world.
take
He
him
can
out.
Take him out of it.
Saying man cannot kill God?
That's what I'm. Well, I guess it.
Man in this scenario being Toad.
Yes.
No, I get what you're saying. I'm now debating internally how I want to feel about that.
Let's talk theology here. Would you kill your creator?
I mean, I wouldn't kill anybody, but
Toad is the fastest and strongest character in Super Mario Bros. 2 US.
yeah,
He is fast, and yeah, he can yank them vegetables
he
real
can
fast.
pull him up real
Are we
quick.
accepting that as
Is he
canon?
gonna? So he can't. He jumped. He has the shortest jump. So I don't know how versed all of
In
us are.
Captain Toad, he can't jump at all.
I don't know how versed all of us are in the ways of Super Mario Bros. 2 USA, also known as Dream Factory or Doki Doki Panic.
Yeah,
However, I am an exclusive Toad player. I do not play as any other character in that game. I think
Toad's
it's
cool.
actually a much better game if you just play as Toad, in case anyone didn't know that. Having said that, the only way for Toad to effectively kill Shigeru Miyamoto would be to jump on top on Shigeru Miyamoto's shoulders, grab his hair, yank it up like a turnip, right? Yank it up, yank his brain out the top of his head by grabbing his hair. However, he can't jump that
No.
high. Captain Toad can't jump at all. How's he going to get up there? Miyamoto's seen darkness. He was just recently credited as a producer on a movie. The man is geriatric. I don't know what the legal definition of that term is. We're going to go ahead and ignore it for a moment. The man is borderline geriatric, at most generous, and he was very recently credited as a producer on a movie, something he's never done before. The man's got skills we don't know about.
He's got a master
The movie
sword.
made hundreds of millions of dollars, broke records. Who knows if the guy's he might be really good with a pistol, right? Who knows? So if you all think Toad can get up on his shoulders,
You've got me convinced.
yank his brain out the top of his head, that's how he'd do it. That's how
I mean,
I
I think
do it.
ultimately Toad's got lives. Shigeru Miyamoto doesn't. So I think that's a big.
Well, I mean, Shigeru Miyamoto's had he's worn several hats in his career,
It's true.
so that's kind of like having multiple lives.
He invented one-ups. You think he doesn't have a stash of them?
Technically, he didn't.
Okay.
There were extra lives. There were one-ups.
Toad disguises himself as a hat. Shigeru Miyamoto, wearer of many hats, picks him up,
Yes.
puts him on his head,
Oh my god.
and Toad yanks his brain out.
Oh, man.
There you go. Toad straddles his head, steps on his shoulders, grabs that big old. Let's face it, guy's got wig-like hair. Me
True.
and him both have wig. We have wig-like hair. We was born this way. I don't know what to do with it. Shigeru Miyamoto got a haircut in like 2017 for like the first time in his career. He got his hair like styled. I hope to do that someday.
Get a haircut.
Get a haircut that is done by a person who has like an idea, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just asking your mom to rip a couple handfuls, which seems to be what he was doing prior to that.
I'm back in favor of Toad now.
Toad ripping his brain out the top of his head. That's the best television we can come up
That's
with
too
here.
evocative an image to dismiss. How do we
Yeah.
feel about that?
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
great about it. I feel so
Me-
good.
Yeah.
And he's gonna make a big old bowel movement sound while he does. He's gonna go "Arr," and yank it out.
Our next match
And-
is
and-
Mr. Domino versus Wild Woody.
Shiggy's eyeballs falling out of his mouth. Wait, what?
Mr. Domino versus Wild Woody.
The listener may perhaps have noticed no pauses indicative of an interruption by Frank Cifaldi during the previous sub-segment of this discussion. We take this as quiet endorsement of Toad as the prime suspect in Shigeru Miyamoto's murder. However, Frank Cifaldi does not hesitate to recite immediately the well-known fact that no one can stop Mr. Domino.
What? Nope.
Because no one can
Because
stop
nobody
him.
can stop
yeah.
him. It's
No,
the
but-
goddamn definition of the guy.
But he's if you play the game, he's incredibly easy to stop.
Here, Frank Cifaldi sees buffoonishly fit to call into question whether or not Tim Rogers, of all people, has in fact played every Art Dink game.
That's true.
I played every Art Dink game, okay? Every single goddamn one of them.
He's extremely stoppable.
yeah.
I was just playing Kaze no Nootamu yesterday.
The
Okay.
premise is a bit spurious, I would say. And
It's ironic.
can't Wild Woody like erase things and make new things.
Frank Cifaldi divulges in front of the panel his deep and abiding hatred of Wild Woody, imploring the panelists who have so little going on in their actual lives as to have bothered to play No One Can Stop Mr. Domino long enough to discover his extreme stoppability, to let the effectiveness of Mr. Domino's propaganda machine win this one for him. Frank Cifaldi begs the panelists to just say no to Wild Woody. Let's find out if they listen.
Wild Woody sucks.
Wild Woody does suck.
No one's ever played Wild Woody either.
The mouth of a Titan from Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
This is a horrifying thing that I'm seeing for the very first time.
Which?
Woody. Wild Woody. Oh,
Woody?
there's a
Yeah,
gif!
yeah.
Put it in chat.
Nobody likes Wild Woody.
No.
No, which might give him an
Yes,
edge.
no one can stop Mr. Domino, and no one can like Wild Woody.
No one can appreciate anything about Wild Woody, I believe is the way to phrase it.
Also, Wild Woody's, like, always drawn with this kind of devious, maniacal look. Like, he's full of hate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Domino is not a hater. He doesn't have hate in his heart.
He's Mr. Domino's a very happy-looking little guy. Yeah. The question is, what great darkness lurks in a happy-looking little guy.
Yeah, behind those eyes.
I mean, Toad just made Shiggy's eyeballs fall out of his mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, I mean, he hollowed his head. A skull hollowed Shigeru Miyamoto. So who knows what Mr. Domino could do.
Yeah, well, I mean, so Wild Woody can erase stuff.
I like Mr.
Can't erase
Domino.
Mr.
I like
Domino.
what I'm
Yeah.
seeing.
I like Mr. Domino. I think Mr. Domino is nice, and I think Wild Woody would just erase his legs, and part of his torso and his little domino guts would come spilling out.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I gotta give this one to Wild Woody.
Yeah.
The heel of Violence Island.
Yeah, you know what? I don't care. Just do it. Just do it. I don't care.
Frank Cifaldi here reminds the panelists that he has played Wild Woody more times than probably anyone else in existence. Frank Cifaldi asks Brandon Sheffield if he even ever got past the first level of Wild Woody. Frank Cifaldi already knows the answer. Wild Woody is a character who can't even beat the first level of his own video game. How dare the panel hand him a victory based on so insipid an idea as his having an eraser?
No, it's
You
unfortunate.
don't give. Wild Woody takes.
That's true. Our next match is Dynamite Heady versus Tails. Miles Tails per hour.
Oh, wow.
You know what? Dynamite Heady kind of sucks. He's just kind of like a Kmart brand Ray-Ban.
Who the
No.
heck is that?
You know, they're not even a Kmart brand.
I like him.
I mean, I love treasure games, but we've discussed treasure
Yeah.
games kind of a lot here.
And we'll do it again.
Dynamite Heady is the kind of game that comes up when someone's like, "What are the best Genesis games of all time?" And there's always like a guy who, is the kind of like guy you'd hang out at the board game store and roast noobs, offering to teach them how to play a game. There's always a guy who's like, "Dynamite Heady's best Genesis game ever made,
I
dude."
don't like this.
That's that guy.
Yeah.
That's that guy.
I like Dynamite Heady myself, but
No, I mean, I like it too. I played the heck out of it, but I'm just saying,
as a guy, his powers... Wait, who is he against? Oh, Miles?
Tails, yeah.
I mean, Tails can fly.
Tails can fly. Yeah.
Tails has bombs to drop,
Mhm.
as per the Genesis game.
No, Tails has an airplane as well.
And I feel like Tails has the will to succeed. I don't think Tails wants to kill, but
Will,
can
yeah.
if necessary. Yeah, for Sonic's sake.
I first played Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and 3 at my friend's house who had a Genesis when I was of Genesis age. But my experience with this is that I first
like
got
today.
Dynamite Heady from your mom.
Oh!
Plastic.
Shoot.
Yeah,
Bless.
so I'm conflicted here.
Shoot. Shoot. Dynamite Heady sucks though, dude. I don't laugh at most stuff in real life, to be perfectly honest. So I was gonna say, I almost said that Tails could spin his tails like a helicopter, which means he can fly, which means he could easily decapitate someone with his tails, right? Easily.
Here, Frank Cifaldi interrupts to point out the punchline to which Tim Rogers has spent the past 11 seconds building up, that Dynamite Heady has no neck. Tim Rogers interrupts Frank Cifaldi's interruption, however, And then listen as just seconds after Tim Rogers interrupts Frank Cifaldi's interruption, Brandon Sheffield interrupts Tim Rogers' interruption to Frank Cifaldi's interruption to point out the same goddarn fact.
Has to be. It has to be. It possessed decapitational force.
But Dynamite Heady doesn't have a neck.
Dynamite
so.
Heady. Exactly. Dynamite Heady doesn't have a neck, so he's decapitation proof.
What?
Frank Cifaldi inquires in earnest as to Dynamite Heady's weak points. What weapon does Miles Tails Prower possess that might kill Dynamite Heady?
Basically, by touching him, like, at all, I guess, is
I
kind
think
of...
the bombs. The bombs are a good way.
Frank Cifaldi asks, on the contrary, how Tails might survive an attack by Dynamite Heady. Brandon Sheffield and Tim Rogers agree that Tails might be carrying some rings. The panelists agree that if Tails can drop one bomb on or near Dynamite Heady, he will win this battle. We assure you the discussion was as tiresome to endure as it is to narrate.
Nice.
Yeah.
God, you
Okay.
know, you should at some point have a three for all between Dynamite Heady, Rayman, and Plock. That would be
Yeah.
a good fight.
My money's on Rayman.
We call it the Olympics.
I'd
Hey.
pay the Olympics. I'd pay $3 to not have
Or
to
the No Olympics.
to not have to discuss that.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you won't. Our next match is El Penitente from Blasphemous
Okay.
versus Satan from Godhand.
Here Frank Cifaldi immediately volunteers, and we quote, Satan.
It's basically Jesus versus the devil here.
Yeah. Devil all the way, dude.
Is that blasphemous guy? Is he Jesus?
Yeah, he's meant to be Jesus.
He's Big J. He suffered like Jay did.
I didn't realize that. I played that game, but
No, this guy looks cool. He's got a pointy head.
yeah, his head's real pointy.
Yeah.
He looks like he could drill into something if he went upside down.
Let me look up Satan real quick. Oh, this didn't go
He's
well.
like if Jesus was Mac tonight. Yeah.
I don't remember Satan and God Hand.
God Hand. Okay, that's where I went wrong. Sorry.
Good video
Let me-
game, that one. You're playing.
God Head got me some different stuff. Okay.
Penitente.
Yeah, I mean I gotta say, Satan, aka Angra, looks pretty legit.
He's got 12,000 HP.
And Jesus can keep coming back, but Satan never goes away. So
That's true. Yeah, he falls, but he doesn't take fall damage.
he falls and he gets up again.
Yeah.
Nobody
Exactly.
is gonna keep him down.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I didn't quite get the Chumbawamba joke, but it was almost there.
All right. Okay, I think we're ruling in favor of Satan,
Hail Satan!
which means it's time for semifinals. Can Toad defeat Wild Woody?
Here Frank Cifaldi begrudgingly admits to the panelists that Wild Woody does have a sharpened pencil tip for a head, and that Toad does in fact look somewhat like an eraser.
No.
I think I would love to stab a pencil personally into that weird spongy
Yes.
head
Yeah,
top
Toad
of
is
Toad.
Yeah.
far too soft. Woody is far too pointy and very aggressive
Yeah.
and frightening.
It would be very nice.
But he could.
He could. He's keeping it back. He's holding his trump card.
Maybe he's like a bee that he can only do it once and then he dies.
Do you look at him, look him in the eye and tell me if he follows laws of God or man.
Okay, guys nuts.
Here Frank Cifaldi reminds the panelists, and by extension the listener, that Wild Woody is literally a video game character who cannot beat the first level of his own game.
There you go.
The game is awful. it's a truly
Yeah.
bad. Yeah, so Wild Woody can't get past stage 1 of his own video game. How's he going to kill Toad? Is that the question?
That's a good point.
Toad is the most valuable character in his best video game, right?
Yeah, no, I haven't gotten past stage 1 either.
I am going to posit that we may not be able to count the Super Mario Brothers feats in Toad's favor because that game is all a dream. That's not Toad, but Mario's dream of Toad.
Yeah, but Toad's and other stuff.
Yeah,
later.
but anybody who's played Super Mario 3D World knows that the skills are the same.
yeah.
Anyone who's eaten a mushroom knows you could stab it with a pencil eraser.
That is true.
That's true, yeah. That's how I prefer to deal with mushrooms.
Yeah, if you try hard enough.
Well, you're saying that Wild Woody can't use his head. Okay, so he has to use his ass. He could stab with his ass if he wanted to.
You could
Yeah.
poke a big old hole in a Toad with that thing.
It's Miyamoto. He's come back. Destroy his own creation at last.
I agree that Woody could do a stabbing.
Yeah.
He could do a stabbing.
He could erase.
I
he
agree.
Could stab.
Yeah.
He could poke.
That's just physics,
could do
man.
Just because he hasn't doesn't mean
He can't.
He couldn't.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have I ever stabbed anyone?
Have you?
I don't think so.
But give you a knife.
I could do
It's
it.
possible.
And she'll eat
when
for
you
a
have
lifetime.
a knife,
No one's gotten past my stage 1.
Yeah.
when all you have is a pencil eraser, everything looks like a mushroom, right?
Yeah. All right, Woody's our winner, which means it's Tails versus Satan.
Ooh.
Tail Satan.
Tails Satan!
Tails Satan. I mean, who's gonna beat Satan?
No one's gonna beat
maybe
Satan
Wild
except
Woody.
Wild Woody.
Here we encounter the rare 1% of this narrator's 99% conversational recall that he does not recall, either because of some minor neurological event or because he moved on to thinking about some more interesting topic. In either case, Frank Cifaldi made a point about either Satan or Miles Tails' Prower that resulted in the panel replying like this.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's true.
No.
Yeah, we could try.
That's true.
Well, didn't Satan literally, like, give knowledge to
That's right.
people? Like, Tails not... Okay, but Satan encouraged Tails to eat the fruit.
Yeah, Satan made that happen.
I attended Catholic Church for the first 16 years of my life, and I was constantly warned of the dangers of Satan, and he never got me.
Yeah.
I never
And you can't even fly.
became a yeah, and I
But-
can't even fly.
but-
so
None of these characters are real.
Never got
So
me.
I think that evens that out.
oh
Yeah, they're equally
me,
fictional.
Yeah, but Tails. Well, I'm saying Tails rules is what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say.
We all love Tails here.
Okay, I just gotta admit. Your humble narrator had completely checked out at this point. Who even cares what Frank Cifaldi said? You have probably fallen asleep by now. Or maybe you got into a car accident on your way to work, and my voice is now playing in a vacuum inside your car while you, outside your car, exchange insurance information with another motorist. Either way, we can tell from context that Frank Cifaldi offered some comment to the tune of, "We love to root for Tails," which really, who among us does not root for Tails? He's a good kid. Then, despite his moments earlier insistence that neither of these characters are real anyway, Brandon Sheffield thoroughly disagrees with the notion of handing a victory to a good kid just because he's a good kid and you've got to root for him. Your narrator definitely was already thinking about dinner and bed at this point, because listening to the surviving audible 4/5 of this conversation again right now feels something not unlike the psychological equivalent of colonoscopy preparation. Shockingly, in the moments that follow, if I recall correctly, and you know I do, Brandon Sheffield will inquire as to whether Miles Tails Prower's Tails possess prehensility enough to bend into the shape of a crucifix, at once gong-awakening the part of Tim Rogers that knows a Satan is in fact not a Dracula. Somehow this will turn after not long into a conversation about, you guessed it, Tubi. What follows that is a conversation about which streaming service Satan would subscribe to and which streaming service Tails would subscribe to. This summary of the conversation should suffice. However, seeing as you've listened this far into the episode, you really deserve to sit through the rest of it yourself. Let's hear how it plays out.
I mean, we know that Sonic is a well-established Christian. He's very devout. I've seen the fan art.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
If he's able to, like, convert Tails to the cause, maybe he has the, like, divine power to defeat Satan.
Can Tails make the sign of the cross with his tails? With his two tails?
My problem is that we already had Satan defeat Jesus, so I don't see how...
Satan's not a vampire,
Yeah.
Brandon. He doesn't blow up if you make a
Yeah.
crucifix of your fingers in front of him.
Yeah, I guess
He's not
I was conflating Satan with vampire lore.
Yeah, Satan's not Dracula.
I was watching Neon Maniacs last night. That was a terrible movie.
Oh yeah. Oh, I bet.
On Tubi?
Yeah.
Was that on
If you
Tubi?
take one
Yeah.
thing away from this
You know it.
podcast, it's that Satan's not Dracula. They're two different guys.
Okay, I think Satan wins.
Wait, which streaming service would Satan subscribe to, and which one would Sonic
Ooh.
or Tails subscribe to? Tails would probably be a Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Crunchyroll? Yeah.
Tails would be Disney, right?
You know what?
Plus, I
Sonic
think.
would be Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Tails would be Crunchyroll.
Okay.
Even though they're both technically on Paramount Plus. We know that. I knew somebody was going to point that out to me.
And Satan would subscribe to
Tubi, probably.
maybe Tubi, but maybe is there something that has like,
Voodoo?
more ads?
Pluto TV.
Fubo TV.
Fubo.
Amazon Prime Freevee. Frank said something here, too, though we're doing both him and you a favor by just not rephrasing it.
Yeah. Crackle.
He's watching Amazon Prime Freevee, and he's just cackling through all of the weird AI-generated ads for Chinese 3D printed smartphone the car vent clips and whatnot.
That brings us to the final we've all been waiting for, Wild Woody versus Satan.
Answer? Who cares?
Satan.
Give me $10 and I'll tell you.
I'm Team Satan at this
Team
time.
Satan.
Yep.
I like like I said, the only one who can beat Wild Woody, who I now
Yeah, I'm
fear.
I
rooting
gotta
for
say, I
Satan.
like Satan for this.
Hail Satan. Yeah, let's go for Satan.
All right. That brings us to 7 of 8 champions. We're so close to the championship.
Here, Frank said something to the effect that Wild Woody sucks. I mean, we know that already. Like, if this joke is getting old for me right now, it must be getting very old for you, the listener.
Yeah. Obviously, yes. We're out of time, Frank.
Wild Woody sucks.
Yes. Obviously, Satan defeats Wild Woody. Wild Woody is powered by Satan, so Satan can just revoke that from him.
Yeah, exactly. Wild
Yeah, there you go.
Woody just
Thank
flips.
you, Frank.
Satan just flips the switch, and Wild Woody just falls
All
dead,
right.
and then Satan burns.
All
him.
right, so
Right. Here, Frank just keeps talking about how much he hates Wild Woody. Man, I gotta go to bed.
okay. Our lineup thus far this season of champions is Gex the Gecko, Captain Marvel, Augustus Coltrane Cole, an all-star team-up of Gene from Godhand and Kazuma Kiryu, another team-up of Lucky and Wild, Quiet, and now Satan. We'll
Nice.
resolve that in 2 months. For now, this is the point where we give our recommendations. If there's anything you've been enjoying or it's something you would like to recommend our listeners engage in, or even something that you're doing yourself, now would be a time to promote that.
Promoto.
I got some. So, if your inner goth sometimes puts like raver beads on,
What?
then I think that you would really like the band Echo Image.
Ooh.
Echo Image is like a synth pop band that is sort of in the goth zone, but also sort of in the like sparkle pop situation. They just put all their stuff on Bandcamp recently, so check out their full length album. Give it a look. I think you might enjoy it if you liked any of that stuff I just said. Also, on the other side of the spectrum, Spirit Possession, which is one of the best new metal bands. I mean, new relatively, in my opinion. They have a new album called Of the Sign, which came out at some point this year, which is good. You could check that out. And then one other thing is I just wanted to, this is something we should talk about later, but I just had this thought that I feel like we're failing young people with genre passions without having video and game stores. I was thinking about this as a video store was closing in my area, one of the last that's there. Because in the past, if you liked video games or you liked movies, there were places that you could go to get a job and they had to pay you and you were working in that field somehow. And I feel like we don't really have that anymore without that kind of retail element of a video store or a game store. Because now what do? You like make a content channel on YouTube, but there's no guarantee you're going to get an hourly wage for that. You mostly do that on your nights and weekends while you're working at Dollar Tree or whatever. So it's just unfortunate that we don't have like a place for people who are really interested in a thing to learn a little bit more about some aspect of the industry while getting paid for real to do it. That's not a recommendation. I guess my recommendation is someone should make more things like that you can do.
Go open a business, listeners.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and start the Criterion Channel of video games, why don't you?
Board game cafes
go for
feel
it.
that way
Go
to
for
me too. Like, because you can work there and it's a non-alcoholic environment. And you can be around board games, but we don't really have the video. Like, we have Barcade, but that's You're not going to work at Barcade when you're 16. Anyway, sorry. Top tangent.
You can do some recommendations your own self.
I guess I could. So I was, this happened to me because I was watching Poker Face on Peacock, and I had run out of episodes because it was
I want to
still
watch
airing.
that show.
I thought it was just fine. But what happened when I ran out of episodes is that Peacock started auto-playing Murder, She Wrote, and there are 12 seasons of it. They each have 5,000 episodes because it was made in like the late 80s and through the 90s.
Yeah. I'm an Angela Stansbury.
She is essentially my grandmother.
She's hilarious.
Oh God, I love her so much. So if you want a show that is legitimately perfect to have on in the background, but which also just has some really banger episodes, like some really good, fantastic character-driven mysteries scattered through, and you can kind of tell within the first few minutes of the episode whether it's going to be a really good one or a, like, let me do a sewing project one while I'm watching. A wonderful way to spend hours and hours and hours of your time. I recommend it heartily.
Also Columbo.
Ultimate.
Yeah!
Columbo's good, but there aren't nearly as many episodes of Columbo as there
Certainly
are
not.
Murder, She
That's
Wrote.
the thing.
Murder, She Wrote is like 12 times as many episodes or whatever. There's tons of it. There's tons of it. I guess I have a recommendation because I recommended something to somebody yesterday, and they then told me that they enjoyed it, so it made me think this is maybe something that people didn't watch. We all know the director Park Chan-wook directed the movie Old Boy, the Vengeance trilogy, right? We all know this guy, right? You know him, Brandon, right? You know this guy? He made that movie Decision to Leave last year. Good film. Did anybody see that film? Anybody? Everybody? Nobody? Somebody?
Here Frank Cifaldi makes the quip that he made the decision to leave last year. What that means, we can't say for sure, though in hindsight it strikes us as eerie that he'd make such a comment immediately before his audio recording vanished forever. Also, in hindsight, I realize that, hey, Frank, if you're listening to this, I really think you in particular would like the movie Decision to Leave. And I also want to say that Decision to Leave has a shot in it that is wildly more impressive to me in 2022, 2023 as a Landstalker fan than that side-scrolling shot of Old Boy was to me back in 2003 as a Streets of Rage 3 fan. And if you've seen the movie, you'll know exactly what shot I'm talking about. It's a really, really good shot, dude. You made the decision to leave? Okay, well, very good. Yeah, I've made the decision to leave, and I'm still here. He's got a new TV show coming out on HBO based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel The Sympathizer, which it looks to be the best show of the year, which I'm very excited about. And I saw some people being excited about it, and I was talking to somebody who mentioned it.
Certainly looks interesting.
I was like, did you watch his show, Little Drummer Girl, based on the John le Carre novel starring Florence Pugh, Alexander Skarsgård, and Michael Shannon?
What?
And my friend was like, what? Yeah, there you go. Exact reaction my friend had. Watch it! It's really good. He directed every episode, and it is very, very beautiful. And
What was that called again?
It's called Little Drummer Girl. And it is based on one of the non-Smiley le Carres. It does not feature Mr. Smiley. His spy who came in from the cold and whatnot. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. It doesn't have that guy in it, but it has some other stuff in it. Michael Shannon is so good. Alexander Skarsgård is so good, and Florence Pugh is so good. They're very good.
Those are three people who are generally good, yeah.
Yeah, and in that show, they're very good, and they're as directed by Park Chan-wook and as written by John le Carre. I feel like I saw no one talk about it.
I never heard of it.
Nope, me neither.
It's on Tubi. No, just kidding. It's on. Unfortunately, it's on AMC Plus.
Oh, God.
no.
Heck.
That's
Blasted.
Satan's subscription service.
Which you can get. You can get a free 7-day trial and probably watch all of Little Drummer Girl and all of Interview with the Vampire.
But if I'm doing that, I gotta watch Breaking Bad because I haven't done that yet. And at that point,
That's not on AMC Plus. That's exclusive to Netflix.
Wait.
AMC Plus is the most incredible ramshackle nonsense. They don't have any of their, they don't have Walking Dead and they don't have Breaking Bad because those are both, exclusive. They don't have Better Call Saul.
That's on Netflix, baby.
They only have, the AMC Plus originals, and they have Mad Men.
Oh, my God.
But it's also, it's a very, very poorly performing streaming service, so you get Mad Men in 1080p with a bunch of like nasty video artifacts every once in a while.
Every time I've tried to use AMC Plus, because I used the free trial, it just broke on me. So I wouldn't recommend that.
As Gita Jackson recommended to me that if you're going to use AMC Plus and this works, get it through the Amazon Prime app, which you don't need to be an Amazon Prime subscriber to get the Amazon Prime app.
Interessante.
Right? You don't need to be an Amazon. You can just get the Amazon Prime Video app, and then there's free stuff on there. Freevee is a now like a sub brand. They have channels on it. And it's just the ugliest app I've ever seen.
Hate it.
They made it look real bad.
Incredibly ugly. If you look at it on a 4K TV, all the images are they're like Steam desktop icons. They're like really, really grainy and small and stretched.
Yeah,
and
they're
weird.
they're like 25 kilobytes or something. It's really odd.
Yeah, it's really incredible. But they do have an AMC Plus channel on there, and you can watch Interview with the Vampire, which I guess that's the third time I'm recommending it. God, that Interview with the Vampire show is so good.
If you do it 3 times, they have to do it.
I've watched it twice now. But also Little Drummer Girl is real good, and the friend I recommended it to is losing their mind at how much they like it. So,
Frank, you got anything?
Here, Frank Cifaldi says that no, he ain't got nothing to recommend. A fitting and chilling end to this, the Ghost Frank episode. Hopefully next time we can enjoy hearing Frank Cifaldi recommend something sincerely to us all in his own voice.
That's fine. Oh, Simone, you won the episode. Congratulations.
I won!
Yeah, I did all the point tallying, and you get homework. We'll talk after the show.
Okay, yay.
I have some recommendations of my own that I would like to share right now. If you enjoyed this episode, or any episode of Insert Credit, please rate and review it wherever and however you can. iTunes is helpful. Archive.org is helpful. Just do it. You could also support us on patreon.com/insertcredit, where you could become a patron to submit your own questions, listen to monthly bonus episodes, and get our regular weekly episodes ad-free. You can also join our community at forums.insertcredit.com, send all business inquiries to show@insertcredit.com, or find a video of this episode on YouTube. This episode is edited by Esper Quinn, with original music by Kurt Feldman. I'm Alex Jaffe.
I'm Frank Cifaldi's ghost.
I'm Tim Rogers.
I'm Brandon Sheffield.
And I'm Simone de Rochefort.
And I'm post-production Tim Rogers.
And Tails Satan. That's an episode. Mamma mia.
We done did
an
it.
episode.
Mia.
We did an episode.
That's an episode.
That's a spicy meatball.
That's an episode, yo.
We sure did it.